So Neil, the NFL is changing in terms of its international reach, and that isn't just fans, of course. It is players making their way to the NFL from all four corners of the globe. Rugby players in particular, when we look at Britain, making that transition and the International Pathway Program being instrumental in that. Do you think we'll ever see a professional footballer make it in the NFL?
I think it will be tougher because of the money that they can make. If they're a high-end Premier League player, then you're asking somebody to gamble quite a lot of money to make a lot of money potentially in the NFL, but it would be a gamble. So I think it could happen with the first two players that come to mind for me is I think Harry Kane.
He's a massive NFL fan.
Yeah, so and I think that would be a factor because I think he thinks he could do it as a kicker, and I think
would
obviously
would want to do it, be driven to do it because
would be willing to kind of take that gamble. But again, if he was doing it right at the end of his career, then it's going to be harder for him to do that. But I think
that's a really good point, right? So if you take, and I don't want to make an easy analogy here, but say a player that has been at the top level, Premier League or La Liga, gets to his early 30s and decides, okay, I'm going to cash in mid-30s, cash in MLS or China, for example. The leagues out there where you can still make decent money, but the level isn't at quite the same as the one you're used to. Rooney going to Washington, Ibra, for example, both going to MLS, latterly Gerrard, Lampard. Do you think that is most realistic, that a player is, if a player is going to do it, it's going to be a top player that then moves in their early 30s? And is that even feasible to do that, to make it as a kicker or a punter in the NFL at that age?
Yeah, I mean, that's when it would happen. I think, that's a massive gamble. Otherwise, if Harry Kane now, 27 or 28,
Unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So,
but I guess my question is, can a
you can make it, yes.
at that
So,
age?
yeah, you can. I mean, look at, you can have kicking. A kicker could be kicking reliably up until he's 40 years old.
Right.
So it can happen. I think we know Harry Kane is a great striker of a dead ball.
Yeah.
So that could translate for me. I think.
Is it two main positions we're talking about, kicker and punter, and mainly kicker, right?
Yeah, mainly. I think mainly kicker. The other one I can't get out of my head. I could see Raheem Sterling, just from that kind of low centre of gravity, that turn of pace,
a scat back style.
A kind of running back or a kick return. Again, it would be very, very hard to do. The transferable skills more come from rugby. That's why we've seen Christian Wade, Christian Scotland-Williamson, Alex Gray, all come from professional rugby. And maybe it was easier for them to do it. Maybe the money wasn't as great as well, so it was easier to make that transition. But, you see how Sterling kind of moves about. He sometimes, to me, looks like an NFL player.
Yeah. Keepers
so those
as well,
would
I
be
guess,
the two.
in terms of your dead ball striking, just kind of power. I mean, Asmir Begovic is regular on this show.
Yeah.
Massive NFL
Big NFL fan as well.
Always fancied his chances, I think, there, and looks at kicker or punter. Yeah. So I guess punter and keeper, there might be just in terms of leg strength, of course, as well.
It's such a hard skill, though.
Well, let's talk about that. And we'll talk about the migration of talent. You mentioned rugby players that have gone through. Assuming they haven't played any football over here at any level, which is probably the case if they're professional rugby players or footballers, they then have to go through a fast-track boot camp style. And was it 12 weeks in Florida?
That's it for the international player pathway, and then trying to get yourself worked out for teams, get yourself either drafted or probably more likely signed as a free agent. And it is a different skill. Kicking an American football is off a 2.5 step run-up.
Yep.
And that you're 7 yards behind 6'8" men who can jump and stretch high, and so you've got to get that football above them. So you're probably kicking that football within 7 or 8 yards. You're kicking it 12 feet in the air, but then it's got to travel 50 or 60 yards as well on a field goal. So
because 40 yards routine, 50 solid. Anything over that, a challenge, but you're still really expected most of the time in good conditions to get it. Right? 60 is the kind of the top end benchmark. So on that note, because you see that a lot as well with critics saying, well, say fans who watch rugby but don't watch the NFL, it's easy in the NFL because it's always right in front of the post, but it's for the reasons you just outlined.
They're rushing right at you as well. And it's a harder ball, it's a smaller ball, it's got a much smaller sweet spot. I used to kick when I played in the British League. I was a tight end, but I kicked as well. And it is a smaller sweet spot. It's not like kicking a rugby ball. I remember going to one of the American Bowls, the old pre-season friendly games at Wembley Stadium. And the Los Angeles Rams had signed Paul Thorburn, who was an old Wales rugby guy who used to be able to kick penalties from the halfway line.
Right.
He kicked off to start the second half and the ball landed on the 20.
Wow.
You know, and it's just a different skill.
Technique. Yeah, it is.
Whereas there are some other transferable skills, like Christian Wade with his movement and his ball skills and his ability to make people miss.
Yeah.
We saw that in the preseason. His skills from rugby translate directly to the NFL, and I think actually he'll make it next year.
You think he'll get a gig next year? So next 10 years, let's say 10 years, are we going to see a professional footballer get an NFL contract?
I don't think we will. I don't think it's worth the gamble for someone. If it is going to happen, it'll be back end of their career, 2 or 3 year thing. And then you got to ask, is it worth it to the NFL team?
Sure.
So I think there's a lot that goes against it. I think we'll see a lot more rugby players. I think we'll see a lot more people from athletics.
Track and field, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
we'll see a lot more people from other sports. We will see a lot of crossover athletes from the UK and around the world making it into the NFL. I just don't see it being a football player.
Hope you enjoyed the Nat Coombs Show presented by Paddy Power Fantasy. There's plenty more where that came from. Just click subscribe to ESPN UK and you won't miss a trick.